What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Raw, as well as some of the latest news, including WWE faction reuniting after 22 years, Chelsea Green under fire, a WWE superstar gets married, and much more. As always, we aren't recapping the matches, but just providing you with the good, oh dear, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, and it doesn't get more uglier than last night's show was. This may have been the worst Raw in recent months. Anyway, as always, we start off with the good, and there's not a lot of it, as number one, Lana's hard work is paying off. A kudos to Lana, whose hard work to become a better wrestler is showing dividends. Few fans were excited when she began wrestling full-time, and while it may be a stretch to say fans are suddenly interested in her work, she deserves credit for improving in the ring. Now, we can't help but recall Trish Stratus's early days in the ring after she transitioned from a manager to an in-ring performer. She put in the time and effort, becoming one of the greatest women's wrestlers in WWE history. Now, don't get us wrong, we're not saying the same thing could happen here, but at least credit where credit is due. Number two, the Queen of Heels. Charlotte Flair has long emerged from her famous father's shadow, becoming a main event star in her own right. However, Charlotte has something in common with her dad, her mastery at playing a heel. Like a proud papa, Charlotte can play a babyface, but she excels as a heel, and there's no reason she should be put into a babyface role when she does so well as a heel. Raw desperately needs a strong heel in its women's division, especially since Baszler has been demoted to a tag team performer. Flair's performance last night, where she talked down to the referee whom she beat up last week, was a great example of the subtlety she brings as a heel, whether it's facial expressions or scathing remarks towards an opponent and authority figures. Number three, a sensational six-man tag. While last night's Raw was mostly a study in how not to book a show, there was one brief moment when they gave the superstars a chance to showcase their skills in a six-man match. The match between The New Day, Damian Priest vs. The Miz, Elias and Jackson Ryker bordered on greatness, and while it was a painful reminder of how The Miz and Elias are being underutilized, it was still an entertaining match. And number four is Lily Nikki Cross. Alexa Bliss's heel turn has been interesting, even though it seems to be missing something. Right now, they seem to be building Bliss's new character up through her perfidious plaything Lily and the mystery of who or what Lily is. One possibility is that the WWE is going to have Nikki Cross portray Lily, an interesting scenario which could help revive Cross's career and reunite Bliss and Cross, a team with undeniable chemistry. They could amp up the creep factor if Bliss were to bring Cross in as a mindless slave doing her bidding. That was the good. What about the bad? Is number one, the endless opener. Last night's Raw saw the return of the terrible talkfest with Mace and T-Bar droning on in a hype video, followed by Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman bickering like an old married couple. This yawn fest gave fans tuning in no reason to stay tuned, and as we'll see, it was just the beginning of a long night that went absolutely nowhere. Number two, did I tune into last week's Raw? The WWE ran a handicap match between Mace and T-Bar against Braun Strowman that ended in the former Retribution members getting disqualified for double-teaming Strowman past the 5 count, followed by Strowman making the save and the match turning into a traditional tag match. Now, we understand that WWE's creative team has long run out of entertaining and original ideas. Recycling 2 of last week's matches with largely the same finishes was beyond lazy booking. It was insulting to fans who expect some modicum of effort from the creative team. At this point, we can't help but wonder if Vince McMahon and Triple H are too busy counting all the money they've been piling up from its latest streaming and television rights bonanzas. Number 3, Cedric and Benjamin are hurting. Alexander and Benjamin are hurting since the WWE made its boneheaded decision to split up Raw's top faction up. As previously reported, Vince McMahon soured on the duo, hence the decision to kick them out of the group. However, is it necessary to bury them like the WWE's been doing the last few weeks? While Shelton's best years are behind him, he still has lots to offer, especially as a veteran to anchor his tag team with Cedric Alexander. Even if they don't want to push them near the top of the tag ranks, if such a thing exists, having them lose every week makes for predictable and boring television. Number 5, Braun Strowman is headed to Wrestlelamia. Backlash. Last night's main event was far too formulaic, especially for any fan familiar with Braun Strowman's troubled career. He won last night's bout against Drew McIntyre, earning a spot in the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania Backlash and turning Drew vs Bobby into a triple threat match. But now that Strowman secured his spot, fans know he'll be the one doing the JOB, as that's his official role in triple threats. One needs to go no further than 2020's Payback, where Strowman ate a pin in the Roman Reigns vs The Fiend vs Strowman match so Reigns could become Universal Champion without The Fiend losing. As we pointed out before, Braun Strowman seems to be this generation's Big Show, a larger-than-life wrestler who wins an occasional title, but whose purpose seems to be putting over other wrestlers and taking a pin in triple threats or fatal four-way matches. Anyone who's worried that Bobby Lashley would drop the championship at Backlash can rest assured that the belt is staying around his waist now that Braun is in the match. Number 6. File a missing persons report. Did someone kidnap the Raw Tag Team Champions? This is the third consecutive Raw that Styles and Omos have been missing from since winning the tag belts at WrestleMania 37. Now there could be a very good reason that the champs haven't appeared, such as COVID quarantining or some other medical matter, or maybe just taking time off, but they made no effort to throw out a storyline reason explaining their absence. This is just another reason for fans to treat the Tag Team Championship as throwaway belts, as apparently no one seems to care that the tag champions are missing in action. Number 6. Crummy comedy. WWE just can't do comedy, whether it's McMahon's so-called joke that Roddy Piper was calling him from hell, or last night's segment where the New Day and Damian Priest pelted Elias Riker and The Miz with rotten tomatoes. The only way this segment would have worked would be if fans were allowed to pelt Vince McMahon and Raw's writers with tomatoes, a punishment well deserved not only for the tomato spot, but for the WWE's continued failing efforts to portray Nia Jax in a comedy role. Number 7. From face mask to face paint. Mace and T-Bar have potential to be a monster heel tag team, but their decision to unmask them and have them switch to face paint makes zero sense. The Viking Raiders already wear face paint, and there seems to be no viable storyline reason for them to cultivate a similar look. The scary part about this move is that the WWE writers probably think it'll help them get over rather than good booking. And number 8. Charlotte's short-lived suspension. Charlotte's short-lived suspension was another example of lazy writing. As we detailed in a previous video, it's believed Flair was suspended in order to give her time off for some dental work. While that's a good use of a suspension angle, bringing Flair back less than a week after their storyline disciplinary action weakened the suspension storyline for future use. Although there's some promise with the slow-brewing story of Sonya Deville undercutting Adam Pearce's role as an authority figure, their frequent failures to follow things up has this segment labelled as bad rather than good. That was the bad. What about the downright ugly? Now we've seen some ugly Raws before, but last night's show plunged into the downright ugly category. There were enough bad segments to rank last night's episode as bad, but the WWE's over-resilience on recycled matches was enough to make fans feel like they'd fallen into a Groundhog's Day-like nightmare. Tonight's wretched Raw had too many rematches and too many rehashes of the same tired plotlines, particularly the dreaded "Can a team coexist" storyline. This angle has been done to death and makes no sense. Why would two wrestlers who can't stand each other join forces when their opponent could take them out during the match? If you said the team wants to win the tag team titles, that should never count as an answer, as when was the last time the tag team titles were even relevant? The insipid plot needs to be shelved for several years, if not permanently, but it's already apparent that we're about to see it happen with Riddle and Randy Orton. Now, we hate to sound overly critical, but Raw has become almost impossible to watch. It's the longest show airing on WWE TV and one that is creatively bankrupt. They need to take a step back and write out some long-term storylines from the main event down to the mid-card. Otherwise, there's no reason to watch Raw other than to build up your tolerance for pain. At the rate things are going, these Raw episodes will be used as torture for inmates in Guantanamo Bay. Anyway, what did you guys think of Raw? Was this one of the worst Raws you've seen? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at a faction reuniting after 22 years. A reunion 22 years in the making is about to happen, as the Attitude Era faction, the Nation and Domination, is scheduled to appear at Super Slam 3 in Doha, Qatar on 26 February 2022. Mark Henry, Ron Simmons, D'Lo Brown and The Godfather will be there, their first official appearance together in 22 years. Now, one person who won't be there is The Rock, but you can't rule out a pre-taped appearance. According to Ringside News, the show features a number of big-name stars, including Bret Hart, Sting, Eric Bischoff, Booker T, Sammy Guevara, Brian Cage, EC3, Jon Moxley, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Will Ospreay. There were rumors in 2020 that the WWE might feature a new version of the Nation of Domination, but that never materialized. Next up, Chelsea Green under fire. Our reports are coming in that recently released WWE superstar Chelsea Green stole some fan art. However, there's much to the story than some sites are claiming, and it's more accurate to report this as a case of Green allegedly posting fan art without giving credit to the artist. Twitter user Salsa Boy is claiming that Chelsea Green used artwork he created without giving her credit. So Chelsea Green really doesn't want to credit me. It's cool that she deleted it after like 5 days, I suppose, but But like, who does this? I don't believe I'm out of line at all here. One fan called Green out tweeting, FYI, crediting an artist is incredibly simple and doesn't expose you as a petty child during a time when you just got released and need to build a fan base. Green replied to the situation tweeting, artists, I love and respect you guys. It's super unfortunate how this has been handled. I think artists deserve credit, period. After reading some of the nasty tweets, I didn't feel like reposting the art was something that I should do, as clearly the artist's view of me had soured. I support my artists, I pay my artists. I've been doing that since I started on the independent scene because I myself was a starving artist and I know the struggle. It's really sad that an oversight on my part has led to this, but I wish the artist luck, and I think it's best that I stick to the artists who I've used in the past and who know the person I am. What do you guys think of the situation? Let us know in the comments down below. And finally, a WWE superstar gets married. Last but not least, congratulations to WWE superstar Mansoor on his recent nuptials. He posted a picture on Instagram with the message, here's to forever. According to Wrestling News' Andrew Ravens, Mansoor has been in a relationship with designer Mia Carey of Orlando, Florida. We now look forward to seeing him at this year's Super Showdown, where he'll no doubt win. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from this week's Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.